All right, let's get this thing started. Let's talk a little bit of Gators and catch back up. As I said, of course, coming off the heels, Vernell Brown III's commitment, the team kind of hitting OTAs, hitting the field next week. Also, the heels of SEC Media Day. So I think a little bit to chat about as a fan base right here, but plenty of places I think to take this. But we can go wherever you guys want to start it. But I thought probably best we'll start team a little bit. We can get into recruiting on the Grill in the Ville this weekend as well. So should be hopefully continuing some of the good momentum built by getting that big time commitment of Vernell Brown III. But I did want to talk a little bit about the team. As I said, fall camp starting next week, about a week before or a month before kickoff versus Miami. So I think we go back to last week, and it really probably not much of a surprise, but let's go back to SEC Media Days. And we all heard, went over at last week's episode with what Billy Napier, Graham Mertz, Shamar James, Montreal Johnson all had to say. Hope you guys enjoyed the input from there. But of course, on Friday, every Friday of the SEC Media Days weeks is the predicted order of finish from the SEC media and then the SEC All-American team, preseason All-American team. And not much of a surprise, Florida in the area that they were picked, but they were picked 12th in the SEC, and I'm not quite sure I saw them that low by most metrics or most preseason magazines or anything, but they were in that group of teams that we've kind of been discussing the last few months or so when you started looking forward to the 2024 season. But Florida was picked to finish 12th by the SEC media. It did go Georgia, Texas, Alabama was third, Ole Miss fourth, LSU fifth, Missouri sixth, Tennessee 7, Oklahoma 8, Texas A&M 9. 9 is about, I think, where we were kind of starting. Maybe we could see Florida, if they were as high as they were going to be, could be 9th. But you got Texas A&M 9th, Auburn 10, Kentucky 11, Florida 12, South Carolina 13th, Arkansas comes in at 14th, then Mississippi State 15th, Vanderbilt 16th. So I think we all probably thought 9 would probably be on the high end. We've seen Texas A&M probably slot in 9 in every other place so far, but Auburn, Kentucky, Florida kind of thrown into that mix there. And the SEC media picks Florida to be 12th there. Of course, schedule comes a lot into play. I would like to know a lot of people's thoughts on Florida. Take away the schedule. We've gotten thoughts of Cole Kubelik, Braden Gall, then last month or so on Gators Breakdown who think more of Florida. But of course, when the SEC media puts their predicted order of finish, this is going to incorporate what they think about the schedule and how that may limit Florida. So taking all that into account, they do have Florida 12. So I don't think anybody should really be too surprised by that.
Yeah, Dave, excuse me. I'm not really surprised by it, but I was kind of thinking more like the 7th or 8th range. And I'm just to piggyback what a lot of the Greg McElroys and all these guys are saying. When they say we think we're going to be a lot better, I think, and you probably said this too, Dave, that I think, what we're saying is we'll probably win 7 or 8 games. I don't think we're saying, we're going to make the college football playoff. We just expect to be much improved this year.
Yeah, I think improved, and I think a lot of us have said this too, improved actually does mean win-loss record this year too. This is time to put some wins up on the board no matter how hard the schedule is. And I do think if you get in that 8-win range, you're probably in that, as you said, 7, 8. But I did not expect the SEC media to pick it that way. I do think, it will be hard for a lot of them to put Florida above Tennessee, above Oklahoma. Like I said, Texas A&M coming in at 9. I think you could start to see Florida in that range a little bit, given Mike Elko, first-year coach at Texas A&M, but definitely not being really penalized for that too much. But yeah, certainly, I do think Florida's a better team than Auburn, but in a harder schedule. I do think Florida's better than Kentucky, but a harder schedule. But also, you've lost 3 straight to Kentucky. I have no issue whatsoever. Anybody putting Kentucky over Florida, maybe it's the orange and blue glasses on my side putting Florida above Kentucky, which I've done for the last 3 years, only to get it slammed back in our face a little bit. But at the same time, I think if you take out the past a bit and take each year by themselves, I'd have no issue putting Florida above Kentucky. I do think Florida is better than Kentucky. It's got to show it this year. But like I said, the schedule is going to come into play when the SEC media are making their picks.
Yeah,
we're not better than
when
Kentucky
you go
until
down
we
that,
beat 'em. I mean, like you said,
when you go down that schedule or go down that list, sorry, and you read off all the teams, you're like, yeah, I mean, I can see us about in that range, and then Kentucky shows up, and you're like, oh crap, right? Like that's a dagger. But on the same point, this is a voted order of finish, right? I think there's a ton of the media that's probably already written Billy off, so they're not really like looking at the day to day and what's going on like we are, right? So, like Edgar Thompson said while he was there at media days, he normally gets a lot of the beat writers coming with, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? But he wasn't getting that this year. It's like, so it looks like a lot of the national media or the Southeast Conference media is pretty much written off this regime, even though we see what's maybe being built here and being the best roster he's had here. And then maybe what gives us the most confidence is Ron Roberts and what he can make in the defense. So, I mean, everything they vote about, fine. That's fair. The schedule is daunting, so let's see what we got going forward.
Well, the thing with that is every team's media right now, you can pick out the good on each side of the team, and what's going to help that team. Georgia, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss is obvious. Then I start thinking. Then I do think you start getting into some questions. LSU and the talent they're replacing with Jaden Daniels and the receivers. Missouri, can they duplicate what they put on the field last year? Tennessee, the quarterback change there. How does Nico help that? And some of the questions they have on defense. Oklahoma making the jump from the Big 12 to the SEC. Can they build on last year? Texas A&M with the brand new head coach. They feel that he can get the most out of that talent, more so than Jimbo Fisher. Auburn, second year of Hugh Freeze. Kentucky, Mark Stoops, and just continuing to do what he does. I mean, each media member can pick out why they feel good about the teams right now. Everybody's in feel-good mode right now about their teams and the teams they cover. Somebody's going to be right. Somebody's going to be wrong.
yeah, I mean, it's once you get past the top ones, it's basically just who has less questions, and then, your pecking order. I mean, who has the more talented roster and less question marks. I mean, we don't have. I mean, we say it's our most talented roster, but it's not nearly talented enough as where it needs to be, in my opinion, and I think most would agree. I mean, it's if we're hoping for seventh or eighth best, then that's still. I guess that's an improvement, but it's how many wins does that mean? Does that mean we're getting 8 wins? Does that mean, I mean, like you said, we need improvement in like on the field results with actually wins. I mean, the thought that this team can get better and still go 5-7, I don't buy that.
Yeah,
we need to actually see results.
And here's the thing: there are going to be surprise teams in this. There are every year. Nobody saw Missouri. A year ago, nobody would have said, "Well, going into the 2024 season, Missouri will be 6th." That'd be the team we ranked 6th. I have to go back and see what Missouri was predicted to go into last year as a predicted order of finish, but we know it wasn't 6th like they are this year. And there's going to be the surprise teams every year. I do think what's kind of funny to me is, part of this is because Florida is a brand name, and I completely get that, and I'm kind of glad that this is not the case a whole lot of times. But you guys realize that Florida has really, when they're in this situation, they're always rarely picked to be the sleeper team. The sleeper team is always South Carolina or Arkansas or Kentucky, but those are the brand names that are a lower tier than Florida. Mm-hmm. Florida's not picked. Yeah. Florida's not hardly ever picked as that sleeper team. When Florida's picked like this, it's always a disappointment and a team that can't surprise and a team that will live there. Why can't Florida as we are, closer to Auburn and Kentucky and South Carolina and Arkansas right now than we are to Georgia, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, LSU. Why can't Florida be that sleeper team? Why can't Florida be that team? Well, okay, it's that team you didn't see coming. There'd be plenty of reasons why the media picks Kentucky to surprise or South Carolina to surprise, Arkansas to surprise. We see it every year, but we rarely see it for a team like Florida who's got that brand name, but is thought to be, well, they're just going to get stuck there until they make a coaching change.
Yeah, I'd love to be the Missouri of last year. This year, that would be ideal.
And don't get me wrong, I don't want to live in that realm and forever of being, because if you're picked as a sleeper team over and over again, that means you're not living up to expectations. But
you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, but this year, why can't Florida be that sleeper team that you always see Kentucky, South Carolina as being? Watch out for this team.
Yeah, be the sleeper this year, and then game trial us, as you go.
I mean, I think a lot of what we're banking on this year too is, we're facing a lot of young and unproven quarterbacks, and we got Mertz coming back, and I think that we're looking at if Mertz takes that step, then we could beat a lot of these younger quarterbacks because they haven't, they don't have the experience and been through the battles like Mertz has, and we're hoping that if our defense is just average, we could win a lot more ball games.
It is funny. We are playing, Florida is playing some new quarterbacks, but if you look at the top of the predicted order of finishes, Georgia, Carson Beck returns. Texas, Quinn Ewers returns. Alabama, Jalen Miller returns. Ole Miss, Jackson Dart returns. So your top 4 teams have the returning quarterback. You have to get to LSU at number 5 before you get to a new quarterback in Nussmeier. 6 is Missouri with Cook coming back. Tennessee, 7. Of course, Nico's coming in there. So, if you look at Florida's schedule with Tennessee, Missouri, Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, Georgia, Texas, Florida at the top of the SEC does play a bunch of teams with new quarterbacks. But then you add in Miami, Texas A&M. Everybody thinks Connor Wegman's there, but could be pushed from a backup at some point in the season, maybe. FSU at the end of the year, UCF with KJ Jefferson. But if you look at SEC teams, Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, you do still play some returning quarterbacks.
Yeah, definitely. Excuse me. You definitely play some returning ones, but it's like we've been playing, the experienced quarterbacks like Kentucky. You've had Levis and you've had Leary back-to-back years, and now they're starting Vandegrift that's got no experience, and you got excuse me. Then you got LSU. It's like, I think Nussmeier's a nice prospect, but I definitely think that I think if that's a team we expect it to get us a win burst, that'd be an upstate win I'd pick, and as far as like Ole Miss goes, it's like I think they're a wild card because Lane will go for it on his own 1 yard line. So I mean, I could see that being a shootout, even with the little confidence that everybody shows in Billy's offense. I could see that being a shootout because Lane, is unpredictable.
Let's move it forward, guys. And, of course, the All-SEC was mentioned that day as well. Florida did have Montrell Johnson. He was named to the second team. Jason Marshall was also named as well. And then Trey Smack, Jeremy Crawshaw also 2 special teamers, even though special teams is a point of contention at the University of Florida. Your kicker and your punter were named special teamers there for Florida. So kind of odd in some ways. I did notice, I think a lot of people made a point of contention of Trey Wilson not being mentioned or not being named to the preseason media days All-SEC team. And then so I looked, and you go look at wide receiver, and you can kind of see why. It as a preseason, would you put him over Luther Burden, Trey Harris? Probably not. Deion Banks, Dominic Lovett? Probably not. And then if you go to the third team, let's see, Deion Banks, Dominic Lovett, those were the third team. Second team was Isaiah Bond. You're not putting him above him. Caroline Lacey at LSU either. So, with only 6 receivers named, if they had 3 receivers in there, kind of more reflecting college football and 3 receiver looks, he probably gets named. I would have had no issue if he's third team, but with Deion Burks, Dominic Lovett there as well already, you can see why he wouldn't be. But did mention, as it was in Athlon, it's kind of it's the same way here with Trevor Etienne being named the first team running back, while Montrell Johnson being named a second team running back. And just kind of the same question I posed to Braden Gall. You do wonder, would Trevor Etienne still be a first team running back if he was in orange and blue and not red and black?
All that matters is to be a first team All SEC running back at the end of the season, not the preseason.
Yeah.
These predictions, and these are the most meaningless ones of all of them. I mean, they're all kind of meaningless. I mean, like I said, it's just give them something to talk and write about.
Yeah, because my thing is
predicting All-Americans and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, this is just nonsense.
Because believe me, how many SEC media members, and I'll include myself in this, know enough about each and every one of these players?
Exactly.
You don't. I mean, and I'm not going to lie and say I do, but when you're there, they do.
Go look at
they
the
do
rosters
SQ.
and see how many yards they had.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
Watch.
There are some out there, of course, that do. I'm sure they do, but the majority, and I'm throwing myself in that too. Nah, I mean,
with that being said, I definitely see some. There's some potential guys that I could see on the SEC teams. I could see Puff Howard. I could see Asa Turner. I could see possibly Joey Slackman or Cam Jackson.
Yeah.
You know,
Shamar.
If they play well, that's definitely some guys I could see. You know, on the offensive side, definitely DK and Badger.
Yeah, I mean, and we know Jake Slaughter, is getting a lot of PFF love. Would that translate into a postseason All SEC? I mean, Princely Umanmielen is third team defensive lineman. He'd probably be on it if he was still at Florida. So I won't shy away from that one. But it's still a former Gator that's on the third team, just like Trevor Etienne. Etienne probably would be on the list as a Gator. I just don't know if they would predict him to be first team like they did. But just say you would have Etienne, Princely, All SEC, Montrell Johnson would still be on it as well. So you'd have a couple more if the guys didn't transfer with this All SEC team. But as you guys said, this is predictions. The goal is to have them on the postseason All SEC, but definitely lets you know where they feel Florida is a little strong, where, of course, not many names on the list, and 2 of the 4, being special teamers.
None of this surprises me at all, Dave.
No, it definitely shouldn't surprise anybody.
What I expected. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not trying to think. I'm not trying to put anybody as a snub. Like I said, if Trey Wilson was on there, would have been no issue with it. But also, when you look at the other receivers that are on there, you can see why he's not. Anything else from SEC Media Days, guys? I know we didn't talk about it too much. I left on Friday, but did share what they all had to say, and I know I put it on Twitter, and the soundbite blew up of Billy Napier and the confidence he has in this team, and we'll see it this fall. I know that's a reminiscent kind of saying that he had last year too about you don't know what I know about this team, and only to go and win 5 games. But if you are the type that looks for good things to be said and can believe in talking season, that was the quote that took everybody by storm, at least on Twitter, because I know that thing had over 100,000 views on Twitter. The confidence of Billy Napier from SEC Media Days.
I mean, it's better than him coming out and saying, "Oh man, I really don't feel good about this. We're going to suck."
I mean, what do you expect him to say?
Exactly. That's why it's talking season. That's why it's talking season.
Exactly.
So, but I will say the highlight of SEC Media Days isn't anything Gator related. It's Lane Kiffin versus
that was all
bald man.
Fine ball.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Yeah.
It's funny, guys, because that's like one of the first things my dad brought up about SEC Media Days. It wasn't even Florida related. It was that. when we were talking. And here's the thing: my dad can't stand either one of them. He can't stand Feinbaum. He can't stand Lane Kiffin. So he got a chuckle out of it just because of what seemed like a little bit of. And I think Lane was having a little bit of fun with it. I don't think it was too serious. But a lot of people had fun at the vitriol of it all.
Well, considering what Lane
Very
did
sure you're
at during the week, like his dad just passed. He was going like he didn't have any care in the world about just spewing anything. He'd been through a family event and something that
that's true.
Nobody ever wants. And I'll give. Why don't we just give props to Billy? Nobody said this, but give props to Billy for opening his speech with, another SEC coach having just lost his father, especially a father who was a coach, just like Billy has. And, especially somebody that's had such an effect on the actual game of football itself. So,
I mean,
me being in Tampa, it's easy for me to, speak on that.
Yeah, I mean,
I get an echo sometimes, so it's hard.
Yeah, first as we and I have put out there before, you're not going to find a much nicer person than Billy Napier. And like you said, for him to open up SEC Media Days that way certainly speaks to the type of person he is. And one reason why a lot of people want him to succeed is because great person. You're not going to find many better than him. And hopefully that translates this year, and he's on the sideline for a long time to come. I'd love to be cheering for the man for a long time. Happy belated birthday to the coach out there as well. Wished him happy birthday the other day. But he shares a birthday with my wife too, by the way. So it was July 21st, and that was the day Vernell Brown III committed. So it was happy emotions everywhere. But yeah, you're not going to find a much better person there. And hopefully, as I said, we're talking about him for a long time here at Florida. So. Anything else from SEC Media Days, guys, and we'll get on to some more team news. I mean, Zach Alberverdi, I'll throw a big shout out to him today, just kind of throwing us a whole bunch of updates there from Gators Online on 3. But anything else from SEC Media Days?
Yeah, excuse me. I really enjoyed SEC Media Days, Dave. And not only did I enjoy listening to them, as far as the bigger writers, but the guys at 1010XL did a great job listening to them.
Mm-hmm.
Having Graham Mertz and all them on there, I really enjoyed them talking to Matt Hayes and I forget the other guy that announced us for the Jaguars.
Yeah, Frank Frangie.
Yeah,
I actually talked to Frank last Monday right before he flew out there. So
yeah, they always do a good job over there at 1010XL. I appreciate the content they put out. Yeah, they always do a good job.
Yeah, there's good people there. I've gotten to know Frank a pretty good bit the last few years. So, yeah, good people there. But funny story, was walking my dog in the neighborhood, I'd say within the last 2 years maybe. Walking the dog, and then some older lady stops me and my wife, and we got to talking, and she knew I told her I worked at Channel 4 and all that stuff, and she was like, "Oh yeah, well, I didn't know that." Frank Frangie lived right here, right beside me. So I live in the old neighborhood. Frank Frangie. As we make this conversation full circle here. So that's a small world at times. I had to let her know that I know Frank because the station I work for and Frank have a partnership as well. Frank kind of does some Monday morning quarterback stuff for us. At the TV station, so mainly Jaguars, but he does like a little campus corner as well, talking a little bit of college football on Channel 4 as well. So a lot of time on Sunday nights, you'll see a little Gator hit from me, and Frank Frangie will kind of contribute there too with Jamal in the Sunday Sports Zone. So if you're in the Jacksonville area, you can. Some of you probably already know you can see me there, but that's kind of the relationship there with old Frank Frangie.
Yeah, he seems like a good dude. I mean, it seems like a lot of your colleagues are coming around to the Gators. Matt Hayes is never positive on us, and he's starting to come around.
Yeah, he's definitely not. He's definitely not. Okay, brought it up, teased it just a little bit. Zach Alberverdi with some good updates there on Gators Online on 3 today. First of all, some Gators playing new positions, some position changes there. Brian Taylor, the JUCO signing in 2024, he's going to be moving to edge. No, he's going to be going now with the defensive line with Gerald Chapman. Was at the edge with Mike Peterson. Now going to be along with the defensive line. He'll play the end spot with Caleb Banks, Joey Slackman, Kelby Collins. So certainly a lot of talent. I think now at that kind of true defensive end spot, hand in the dirt defensive end spot with Caleb Banks and his experience last year. He gets a year 2 at Florida. Joey Slackman, one of the higher rated defensive linemen in the transfer portal now, and be able to make his impact here for the Gators. Kelby Collins, I think we're all looking forward to year 2 for him. Kind of similar there too. He was in that edge group, made that position switch. He made it back in the spring, so he was able to go to spring in this defensive line, defensive end role. Brian Taylor, as we go into fall camp, will be making his move there. And also Cam Waits, who we thought would be in a right tackle battle going into fall camp with Brendan Crenshaw-Dixon. Well, Cam Waits is now going to slide inside, give Damian George some competition at that right guard spot. They're along there with Bryce Lovett, who was pushing there. So it does give Florida a little more competition at that right guard spot to go along with a body transformation of Damian George. Billy Napier, I think he said he lost 15 pounds of fat and gained it back with pure muscle in that transformation there for Damian George. But certainly now that to me, the battle now at along the offensive line, it changes a bit heading into fall camp with Cameron Waits not battling at right tackle, but now be battling at that right guard spot.
Dave, what's the health status update on Cam?
He should be pretty good to go with it coming up. I haven't heard of any setbacks. And I do expect him to be full go when fall camp rolls around.
I'll say it makes sense because of how many tackles we brought in.
Well, apparently Caden Jones is going to be pushing there at the right tackle spot with Brendan Crenshaw-Dixon. That's going to be the battle now, not Cam Waits and Brendan Crenshaw-Dixon, but Caden Jones at the right tackle spot. So starting to hear some new names as well as Florida finds some more depth in other spots.
That's great, but outguarded.
Do what?
How does this affect the guard and center position? Is Kearney back up and tackle at all? Like I'm just
no. He's going to be an inside guy. No, Kearney's the inside guy. No, that's what I just said. At right guard, I think it's pretty. It's George Lovett and now Cam Waits. So I do think Kearney backing up at center and maybe the left guard spot.
Gotcha.
Behind Najee Harris there.
What day fall camp start?
Should be, I think it's the 31st or the 30th. I hadn't got a hard date on it. It's next week for sure. It's either next Tuesday or Wednesday.
What are we thinking about Dez losing some weight? Do you think we're finally starting to turn the corner here? Because I see he's down to, I think it's 447.
440. Woohoo! That's a lot.
I mean, you heard Billy Napier last week. I mean, and I hope this isn't lip service, but it does seem like there is more of a buy-in. Put it this way: whether the strength and conditioning means a whole hell of a lot this fall or not, we'll never know. Of course, when you make a change, the change is always going to be good news. I mean, when we made the change from, the last change away from Nick Savage, it was okay. Well, this is going to be good. We hear this is good. We hear that's good, only for it to not be good again. So now we have a change again, and just by nature, it's always going to be positive about the change. This time, that's just how it goes. But it does seem like there's more of a. I think when you had the way it turned out last year at the end of the season, and there's the exit meetings happening, and players are mentioning to Billy Napier, pleading to Billy Napier that something needs to happen at strength and conditioning. Now, with that change being made, there is more of, and I do believe this part of it. There is more of a buy-in from the players. There is more of belief in the players that this is working or this is different. We'll have to see if different means better. Different doesn't have to mean better. But if there's more of a buy-in, the players are doing the things they need to do to take care of their bodies. You hopefully are more healthy. You can play more plays. You're more. You just I think when you buy in the strength and conditioning, you're more bought in overall as well. So I think a long part of that, and Zach contributed to a report to this as well. Once players have seen their test results, the buy-in has been even more. So there's previous strength and conditioning. There was a little bit of confidence lost in that. And you heard Napier last week with Tyler Miles, kind of at SEC Media Days, expressing how much better it is for the players and losing body fat and then putting muscle on, the lean muscle on to replace that body fat. You hope there's some faith now in this, as at least in step one, can get this thing turned around. But strength and conditioning, while the short amount of time that they've been with Tyler Miles can certainly make a difference, this is something that has to really build on itself month after month, year after year. It can certainly be better in this short window that we've seen, but you're not going to see the full results till this strength and conditioning, this nutrition staff work hand in hand together and put months and years together, not just a short window we have right now. You're really going to see more. If this thing is headed in the right direction on this angle as well, you're going to see it benefit even more next year than so this year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you could see a big dividends when Nick Savage took over the first year. We were much more physical that year. I mean, going forward, I don't know what to think, but it's kind of weird that Cam Waits is going to be a guard. That's kind of like a Fred Johnson type thing. That's going to be a big guard to see over, playing on the inside.
I mean, you got
just rotate him in on the running game.
Yeah.
He's going to plow people over.
Yeah, 6'8" guard.
Yeah. So, also, what I say about the strength and conditioning is they've also been a ton more transparent about what they're actually doing. I don't believe we had that much coverage of what was actually going on under hockey. I mean, that might just be something that happens when you have, when you have so much social media these days. But we weren't seeing, we're seeing people when they're pumped up, the players are wearing the Vaseline before and after. I guess that was more of a Savage thing, but with that guy that McElwain had here, there was the rumors of all the stuff that they had to work out off the campus. And sorry, I'm trying to dodge my family, my son. Let me speak, because he's out there playing in the ring. But anyway, there seems to be a lot more transparency. I can't remember. That must have been who was that? Nick Delatorre, or no? That did the whole series with Tyler Miles and what players are losing weight wise with fat, and then adding lean muscle on top of that. It just seems to be a lot more transparent. This is a long way to make. I don't remember them being, letting somebody in and seeing how they do strength and conditioning in the past, except for Swamp Kings with that video.
Well, they're trying to promote change and show that it's headed in a positive direction. So they're letting out.
They need to.
That's why they're giving everyone more access.
Yeah, I will say you did hear whispers early on that maybe hockey wasn't the best move with the players. So, sometimes change, though, people just don't like change. And at that point, you just want to see results. And, maybe if the results were good, then they would come around on it. But certainly it didn't. Whatever early feelings that were about hockey, it didn't. That kind of translated and never really made a difference on the field.
Weren't we skeptical about that in the beginning?
Yeah, many people were. Now, there's no previous working relationship with Nick Savage, so you can kind of, and this was the guy that you brought from Louisiana, and it worked there. So, and I've always said, you're hired for a reason. You dance with what brought you there, at least to begin with. But if it doesn't work, be quick to change. Billy Napier, he had a lot of success. There's a reason he had a lot of success. You believe in what you did to get to the point that got that got you to that point there. So, while it wasn't there to begin with, it took 2 seasons and now there's change.
Well,
let's not forget now that it had to be changed again.
Remember, the players wanted Savage to stay.
Yeah, they did. But I also remember, whether you want to put it on him or not, too. The 2021 team didn't look all great and physical, and
we had Fates recruiting for a few years at that point. So who knows?
One player.
Oh, speaking of,
Do you think the cam move is more of a positive for the tackles or a concern for the guards?
Ooh, that's a good way to put it. That's a good question. From what I can gather with the Caden Jones pushing Brendan Crenshaw-Dixon, that they probably feel pretty good at tackle and probably want more help on the inside. I don't know if it was because of a worry at guard, but maybe you can elevate the play at guard because George could still end up starting for all we know. Billy Napier, like I said, was praising his body transformation at SEC Media Days. So I think it's because they feel good at tackle. I wouldn't necessarily because they worry at guard, but you got to put him somewhere. I think they want Cam Waits to play. He comes over from Louisiana with Billy Napier. He's been hampered by some injuries. Maybe this is a way to get him on the field. But to answer your question, I'll probably say they probably feel pretty good at tackle now with the apparent news of Caden Jones pushing and want to get some help on the interior.
It could also mean that they're just not very confident in guard.
It could be. I haven't heard that, but
I have another theory on it, Dave. I think it's a reflection of Callaway because he's more of an air raid guy. His coach played for Leach and Mummy, Valdosta State. And so a staple of the air raid is you have wider alignment of the offensive line. Like the offensive linemen stand farther apart from one another. And in that model, you probably want more tackle body types than you want guards because you need wide wingspan. So I think it's probably just an acknowledgement. Like, look, we're going to be a passing team. We've got a 5th-year senior quarterback. He's not super mobile. We've got explosive receivers. So lean more into the air raid. I think that's what this shows.
Awesome.
Oh man, if that's what it is, then yeah, Ocho, thanks for that input. I would certainly buy that. And look, I go back to a year ago, and it was we were putting the stats out there. If Billy Napier didn't run for this many yards, Florida wasn't winning a game. Well, I think you got to change that a little bit now, just because of what Florida has. Going to Ocho's point there of what Florida has at quarterback, at receiver, especially bringing in Badger late as well as another weapon. Maybe with Callaway, you do lean into it with the weapons you have at quarterback and receiver.
Now, Ocho, do you think we're going to go downfield a lot more and we're going to show some wider splits and a lot less 12 personnel?
Yeah, 12 personnel and going downfield, I think you could do both at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that as much. It's just more of like you didn't have an over-the-top threat last year as much. Mertz adjusting a new system, his internal clock was sped up. I think he's going to be more comfortable. So, you've got these fast kids you recruited, chuck it downfield.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but it was interesting hearing kind of Caden Jones' name out of nowhere. As now, maybe this is out of nowhere. Maybe it's just a false hope there, but I don't. I don't know the case there, but it's certainly, as I said, Zach posted some good articles there on On3, and to kind of quote from that one, the coaches have been high on Jones since the start of spring, and is continuing to impress this summer with his development at right tackle. One source said he's in a quote heated battle with Brendan Crenshaw-Dixon for the starting job.
Yeah, I put it in the Discord earlier. I think it's a good sign because, we kind of know what Crenshaw-Dixon is. We certainly know what Barber and Manuel are. So Aiden Jones has a higher upside, at least based on like physical attributes, recruiting rankings. So if he's taking over, it's a sign like the better, more athletic kids are winning out.
And I'll tell you, I'm going to stay in the trenches because I don't want to steal Zach's thunder. I hope you guys can read the article. I don't want to steal his thunder there. Those guys work hard over there, but I'm going to stay in the trenches. Defensive lineman, more defensive tackle type, Jamari Lyons is also listed on that. Lyons had a strong offseason, could be Florida's best player at the nose tackle position. More importantly, one source said he has matured a lot and made progress off the field, which we go back to the spitting incident versus FSU last year that hurt Florida. But certainly, I do like the hearing. Maybe Florida's best player at the nose tackle position. You have a Cam Jackson there who certainly garners the attention, certainly has the name recognition based off of last year. I like what I saw from Lyons last year. I thought there was some potential there. You lose Chris McClellan as a depth piece there. Jamari Lyons needs to step up, and if that little blurb is true about him possibly being Florida's best player at the nose tackle position, certainly gives Florida some more depth up front.
Definitely great if true. We need a little bit of backup service there. Like what we have. If we just get a little more beef up there in the middle, I'm all for it. Like, it's a good sign. But Dave, all these preseason projections, all these articles, this is,
it's the time of year for it.
This is real talking season. Like we do Lions season, we do all this stuff, but this is the most deceiving point of the season.
Oh yeah, Bud Davis put out a good tweet. He said this basically on that front. This is the type of year where no matter who the team is, and that's kind of what I was going back earlier for SEC Media Days. No matter who the team is, this is where you kind of get all the positive spin out of the way. And like I said, I've looked at it when we talk personnel a good bit in the offseason, going back to spring, kind of heading into fall camp. I do kind of look at it as in, why can this team be good? And maybe here's the why. And that's kind of the way I choose to look at it, knowing that there are limitations. You guys see me post them in the Discord all the time of needing to prove a whole lot. But, I do go into spring, go into fall camp of, hey, if Florida's going to be good, this is what we're hearing as could be the reasons why. It doesn't mean it will happen, but don't be surprised that, hey, if Florida's good, it's because of these things we are hearing.
I was sold on Andy Jean. Man, I was so sold.
Well, go back to your Jamari Lyons point, Dave. We seen flashes out of Lyons last year. He never could put it together consistently. It was always just a big play here and a big play there. It was never he could ever put a whole season together of good play.
And then with the move of Taylor,
well, he's got a different coach now, doesn't he? He's got a different coach. He's a year older, so things definitely changed. This is the magic of the preseason. Like, you imagine a guy like Jordan Castell can produce like all these other safeties that we brought in. Like, that seems more likely than a lot of these other jumps we're asking all these players to make. And I'm optimistic, but as closer we get to the season, I am really starting to dive down into some of these closer questions that we've been lying about all offseason.
Well, here's one. Who's going to get to the quarterback? I mean, you lose as bad as Princely was in some people's eyes last year. He was still really the only guy who could consistently get to the quarterback. And then now, with the move of Brian Taylor more to the defensive end, that brings up, what does the F spot look like? Justice Boone, Tyreek Sapp, Cam James, LJ McCray. You have some young players there with McCray and James. Can they push Sapp and Boone? I mean, Sapp is not really a pass rusher. I mean, he can do some things, but he's not going to be somebody you're going to count on in a drive in and drive out to go get to the quarterback. Justice Boone, you don't know what he's going to be like coming off that injury. Cam James and LJ McCray are guys who can push those guys, get on the field a bit more. I think we know LJ McCray, his ceiling is much higher than any of those guys. If he's the quick study that he's kind of been labeled as, and the more we see him on the field earlier in the season, I think it's a great sign that he's just too good that you can't keep him off the field.
Yeah, Breonna Taylor he seemed like a big guy when we signed him. So I kind of expected him to make that move, but I was, but they said, he was going to be an edge, but I was like, this guy seems to be a pretty spot. It's like that kind of makes sense.
So there you go. Some position changes right there. Good stuff by the team over there at Gators Online. Oh, they're good hard work there. Let's keep it going. Let's turn the page of recruiting right quick. Anything on the VB3 commit, guys? I think it was not really a surprise, of course. Him picking Florida on Sunday. We thank God it wasn't a surprise because we've been there before. So didn't want to relive anything like that again. Thankfully, the good news held up to be good news. But it was a big one. It was one Florida needed. Big thanks to him last week for hopping on Gators Breakdown, giving us a preview of his decision leading up. Now, that wasn't because he was picking Florida. I was just a podcast chosen. They chose one podcast per his finalists. So he did one for Miami, Ohio State, and FSU as well. He did hop on Gators Breakdown for the Gator angle of things. So that was a big thing.
Props, Dave. Good job.
Thanks. But big thanks to them for allowing me to kind of be part of that journey leading up to his decision. But great way to show he wanted to be a Gator. You could tell the legacy part meant something to him, but wasn't the determining factor, especially when you saw the recruiting video of his dad, his grandfather, his other family members being involved in the video. You could tell it meant something, but it wasn't going to be why he came to Florida. But certainly a player, when you look at those highlights, and you just, as I kind of tweeted out, when you can have DJ Lagway and Trey Wilson and Vernell Brown III on the field at the same time, throwing Tank Hawkins in that rotation as well to go along with some of the big body receivers Florida is recruiting. Certainly you can see the vision and kind of going back to that, maybe, opening up the passing game a bit more. But with Lagway and those receivers out there, you can see the vision on offense that really kind of, if Billy Napier can get through this year, it's something to believe in with a high-profile quarterback and the weapons they're putting around him.
Yeah, I'm pretty fired up about it, Dave. I'm just as happy as you are about it. I mean, and that video that you were talking about, that was just heartwarming to watch. It's like you can see why the kids are, they gravitate to Billy Napier. Like you said, he seems like a good dude, and it's like, It was fun to see, we all grew up watching Vernell, and it's fun to see him, his kid come here. It was just a fun moment.
Absolutely. I think that also the fact that I think this is probably the number one kid on all of our boards.
Yep.
For this recruiting season. This was a must get. You don't get this kid, and that's a real blow to the fan base going forward. Hey,
Corey, on that part, right quick. I don't want to leave that part. I don't want to leave that part. I think that's pretty important. As much as we question recruiting a little bit right now overall, and we should, but it is a pretty good point. As last year, DJ Lagway was the number one target we all wanted. Florida got him. Vernell Brown III was the number one target. We just had to get this class. No ifs, ands, buts about it. No two different ways to think about it. He had to be the guy. given the connection, but given the player he was more so, that you had to have him in the class. So at least, if there's something you can point to with a silver lining in recruiting, the top options you wanted the last couple of cycles, you went and got. Now, of course, he still got to sign, but for now, he's
no doubt. Keep him in the class. I heard Brandon Olson also say, like, this could potentially be the kind of guy that could see a regime change, potentially. Him be, group this with some of the core legacy guys like Miles Graham. Like, if this does go just completely backwards, then this could be the core of the future as well.
Yeah. Hopefully we don't have to go that route, but yeah.
No, I'm not. I just want to to build to 25. I think it's possible that we can make a playoff run, Dave. We're already going to sign a smaller class because, Billy has high standards. He's not going to go out there like Mullen and just load up on 3 stars in the offseason and say, hey, look, we're already loaded up. Now it's just football season. It's going to be, this staff, especially, we haven't even talked about Johan. So,
haven't talked about what?
This shows that Joe Hamilton.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, there's guys even like Shane Matthews. Like, he's always high on the team. He's like, all this negativity sucks. Just move on. They've got all these new quarterbacks. Like, Shane's in there. He says 8 wins every season. We'll get there. You don't know these teams. Graham Mertz is better than most every Spur quarterback. Blah 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 blah. But I think with the coaching changes, anyway. So we were changing the subject to Joe Ham, and the recruiting, or not changing the subject, but. So what does Joe Ham do for this class? I still feel like it's going to be a small class, but it's still going to be highly rated. And that seems to be like, what if Nick Saban was in this situation? He's going to sign top kids and, backfill with the portal. So let's say we do a class of 20 kids, we push some others out. We got some graduating, whatnot. Let's bring in some transfers. We've got DJ Lagway ready to go. What happens then? That was a lot. Joe Ham, what are we doing with Joe Ham?
Yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah.
For him, it's just everything's got to. He's not going to be a miracle worker. He's good. Don't get me wrong. It's much better to have him than to not have him. But everything else has still got to be on the up and up. Then he can make his difference. He's not. Florida's not getting an elite class just because of Joe Hamilton. He can help contribute to one when everything else is in place as well. But it's not. This is not going to be. Yeah, he's not some miracle worker that just because you have him on this staff.
I guess what I'm getting at is future recruiting strategy. Saying Billy stays, what is the strategy for 25?
Probably what you said. It's going to be a smaller class anyway. Florida's not going to have a lot of departures, but just because of, it's going to be a smaller class just because of that. There's not many guys that are going to go leave for the NFL. So I think you're going to keep that intact, so that's going to lend itself to a smaller class already. And I do go to your point. He's not going to. He's shown he's not going to backfill with a bunch of 3 stars. So the transfer portal will probably, and look, rightfully so. No, but that's a pivot at that point, much like it was last year. I would have loved to have the class that the way it was looking in August and September more so than what it looked like in December, and then having to pivot to go to the transfer portal. Now, in some ways, that can help pay off for this season because you went and got some more instant contributors and a critical year 3 for Billy Napier. So it may work out better for this year anyway. But in the long run, I hope you don't have to pivot as much, and you have the commits and you get those commits signed in December and early signing day. But this year, I do think it will be see what Florida does on the field. You probably get if there's some more wins, you probably get a couple flips. I don't think it's going to be, saving this class in the end. Top 10, you can probably forget about it. Top 15 is probably going to be hard to attain in just pure high school football rankings. So, I don't think Billy Napier is going to go reach, and it's going to be a small class just because of, I think, the way it looks right now and just the natural roster, the way it works right now. 25, it's not going to be this huge class, huge number class anyway. And for Joe Hamilton, I don't really know the effect right now for this class. A lot of the legwork has already been done. A lot of the visits have already taken place in the summer. There's June visits. He'll be there at the Grill in the Ville this weekend. Certainly hope he can help there. But the legwork for this class has pretty much been done. Now, as we kind of all said, Florida can put some wins. That will be the biggest thing that can help, salvage this class into looking better than what it looks like right now.
What about transfer portal strategy coming out of this season? Let's say we're 7 involved.
Defensive line, I think you're going to have to, because I think recruiting in that area right now does not look great. And maybe a quarterback, because you've missed on some of your top options in this class already. I don't know if you've circled back around on some of those guys down there. You already have your 26 guy committed as well there in Will Griffin, so I can see a transfer portal quarterback possibly. So, and I know they're still going down the quarterback board. I don't think they're going to give up on a quarterback for this class, but and probably offensive line again too. I think we've seen they'll attack offensive line in the transfer portal. So those are the 3 positions I'd be looking at transfer portal wise. Speaking of Grill in the Ville, that is this weekend. A bunch of Florida 2025 commits will be on campus. Waltez Clark, Chad Gasper, the running backs. Vernell Brown III, new commit, will be there as well. Tayshawn Gelsey, Jeremiah McLeod, Jalen Wiggins, Miles Johnson. Those are commits that will be on campus. And then, of course, we got the update not long before we recorded this. Nashawn Montgomery, he will be on campus as well, but he's going to have a late August decision. I know Florida was looking to hopefully close the book on that one, the 4-star wide receiver. Was hoping to close the book this weekend on that, but now he's going to have an August decision. Florida would still be my pick right now. Look for maybe possibly LSU to push a bit more. Penn State's kind of the school that's been hanging there as well. I know he listed the top 6. I forget the other schools that were on that list off the top of my head. I know I'd still say Florida's the trending school. Penn State's just kind of been there. LSU may end up being a school that pushes a bit more. I still think it ends up Florida. And then Ty Jackson, one of the top linebackers, a big need for this class for Florida after some other misses, mainly Wallace at linebacker. He'll be on campus for the Grill in the Ville this week as well. Hopefully Florida that's going to be a marathon recruitment. I'm pretty sure he's not going to make a decision this weekend, but hopefully here this weekend, hopefully visits for a game as well down the road. But then a bunch of 2026 commits as well as Florida starts laying a big groundwork for that class at the same time. But Nashawn Montgomery being around a whole bunch of commits, being around Vernell Brown, and Ty Jackson being around a bunch of commits as well, hopefully makes a big impact on those guys this weekend.
Are any of these guys going to commit this weekend, you think, Dave?
Nope.
It will literally take you to fucking.
Well then.
Alrighty.
Well then.
What was that?
I don't know.
I'm just reporting the news.
No, I don't look for any commitments this weekend. As I said, Montgomery, they were trying to push, I think, for this weekend. I don't think it will happen now that since he announced today that it's going to be a late August decision, August 25th, I believe. And then Ty Jackson, I know he's in no hurry to make a decision.
Well, it seems like there's going to be some unexpected visitors that just from
Yeah, that's just what.
Just all the.
Yeah, as we record. Yeah, as we record Tuesday night around 8:00. Yeah, that's just what the list looks like right now.
Well, excuse me. With Joe Hamilton coming back, we should. I expect some guys from Texas, to to be there this weekend.
Yeah, I don't know about this weekend or not, but certainly you would. I mean, because I believe a whole bunch of schools are kind of doing this weekend thing this weekend. So I think Miami's having.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah, I think Miami's having one too. So maybe some of those plans have already been in place.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But certainly worth keeping an eye on this week because who goes? Lagonza Hayward, of course, the safety that looked like a one-time behind-the-scenes silent Florida commit. He'll be making his decision Saturday between Florida, South Carolina, and Tennessee. Looks like Tennessee's going to be the pick right now. That's the way that was trending. Florida did have a lot of buzz after their visit, but that was one that kind of looked good behind the scenes, but a lot of people at the same time knew without a public commitment coming off of the visit, and he had kind of been impressionable with other visits as well, that one may not go Florida's way. Bryce Fitzgerald, of course, he's going to have his decision August 17th, so that's an upcoming decision in about 3 weeks. Florida, FSU probably leading the way there. LSU, Miami on the outside looking in. Ben Hanks Jr. At one time, I'd say probably a few weeks ago, maybe looking Florida, Miami, Louisville battle. I think Florida right now probably holds the edge, but I think that one's going to just come down to whenever he makes a decision. Maybe Florida, Miami in the end, but Louisville on the outside looking in. So there's a quick little update. Got some defensive backs in there. And, of course, talking about Nashawn Montgomery. All right, guys. Anything else?
Well, excuse me. It definitely seems like we've been trending from Montgomery for a while. So hopefully we can hold off LSU. I don't know how many receivers LSU's taking because they just got that Derek Meadows kid. So I don't know how many receivers they're going to take.
Yeah, I missed that. While I was in Orlando over the weekend, I did see that. The 5-star receiver there. I believe they have another 4-star committed as well. I know they're trying to get Jamie French, the 5-star receiver out of Mandarin Jacksonville, on campus this weekend for their cookout thing or whatever. So they're still pushing hard. Maybe if they, don't feel good about him, maybe that's where the push even harder for Montgomery there comes from. But that's kind of the news there on that one.
Oh, I thought French was trending towards Texas.
He was for the longest time, but I'm not counting out Miami.
Oh yeah, definitely not counting out Miami with anybody. The way they spend money.
Oh, sorry, I had a cough there. I had to mute the mic there for a second.
It's all good. I think all of our allergies have taken over this episode.
Yeah, I hear that. No, that was water went down the wrong way, so I had to catch my breath for a second.
Oh no.
Oh, but there we go. I think we got caught up a little bit tonight. After a busy weekend, as I said, was pretty much all Vernell Brown III, but then trying to catch up on some news the last couple of days, coming back from a little bit of vacation. Another vacation coming up, but I don't think there's any decisions coming up. So if there's any commitments, it will be a surprise to me.
I don't know. Billy was saying, hyping up your Gators breakdown. He may want somebody to commit since he knows you're going on vacation, Dave.
Might be. We'll make a phone call. We'll get it to happen, I guess.
There you go.
Oh, all right, guys. Well, thanks for hopping in for another Gators Breakdown Plus chat. Thank you so much for being members. Of course, looking forward to the season in about a little over a month. As I said, these kind of episodes during the off season, kind of previews of what we do during the season right here on Gators Breakdown Plus. So off season, you guys out there, you get a little bit of preview of what we do here. And if you want to take part in these, you can become members of Gators Breakdown Plus as well. Link will be in the description. And everybody, thank you so much for thanks for chatting again.
Thanks, Dave. Go Gators.
Go Gators.